Maybe.
What?
Hey, if you got this part of the video, you've got the live unedited edition. Home Gadget Geeks, Thursday night, September 2nd, 2021. If you've got this any other time, but 8 p.m. in the Central Time Zone. You've got the recorded version. That's okay. Hang tight. We have a pre-show beer pour that we'll talk a little bit about that. And so hang on for that, and the show will start here in a little bit. But if you are joining us live, checking in the chat room, I see Brian and Ken checking in. Joe is out there as well. There's one other because I see 4 out there and 3 names. So join us, jump in chat, say hi. Mike, you were raving in the pre-show about a certain beer. What do you got tonight?
Yeah, we found a good one. Wife approved too. She actually stole one of them. They came in a 4-pack, so now I'm down to 2 left. So what I grabbed was the Knee Deep Brewing, and it's their Tanilla. So it's a vanilla porter. It's out of Auburn, Placer County, California.
Oh, Auburn's beautiful.
Man, for a vanilla porter, this is like delicious. 6.3%. Nice and easy to drink. It's really good. It's
a vanilla porter, so
yeah,
it's going to be good. Auburn it's up between Sacramento and Tahoe, and if there's any place I was going to live, it'd be Auburn. It's so beautiful up there. It's
really?
Like you're in the foothills, and you're not quite in Sacramento, but you're not all the way in Tahoe yet. You can be in Tahoe in an hour. It's pretty. Speaking of Tahoe, Bob, you're in San Diego. How's that going? That's pretty great, right?
Yeah, we were just talking before. I just love the weather. It's just totally different vibe than where I was before, which was Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So big change. But
you a beer guy at all? Because they got some great breweries there.
Yeah, I'm not a huge beer guy, but I did was that last weekend? Down at one of the beaches, there's this. It's called Mike Hess. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. But they have a brewery it's basically right on the beach, and I don't know what it was, but it was really good, whatever it was. And I'm not really a beer guy, so
yeah, well,
it's pretty awesome.
Here's what you got to do: you got to try the mead. So there are tons of mead places in the San Diego area. So mead is honey. It's like honey milk, right? It's just alcohol made from honey. And so I think it's at least Lost Cause. No, is that the beer we drank, Mike? Is Lost Cause the beer from Arkansas?
Is that the name?
Yeah.
No.
Was it Last
40?
Lost 40.
Lost 40.
So
we have a lot of the words
last
in there. We got
chance.
Right
anyways, there are some meaderies in San Diego. My son was stationed at Pendleton there, and they would go in the area. It's famous for its mead. So if you ever get a chance, it's delicious. And make sure you get a good fruity mead, because and they're dangerous. So because you're like, oh, this tastes good. Where'd it go?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're laying in the street. So you gotta be careful.
Sounds like a good time. I feel
it's pretty great. Yeah, mead is probably 14 or 15. It's kind of that 15%. It's kind of that.
Oh wow, yeah,
that kind of that wine. Yeah.
It's
like a good wine. So, Mike, I did the Boulevard Tip Your Cap. This is a Negro.
I wish I would have seen those.
Centennial,
I love Boulevard.
Centennial celebration. Yeah, in it, I'm thinking it's kind of a light lager. I think that's kind of it doesn't say what it is.
Looks like a Budweiser.
But it looks like a Bud.
My approval.
Well, and they got kind of like a baseball series going on right now with their beers, which are good. If you're sitting out at a ballpark, it's good. Here, we'll give it a taste. Yep, it's Bud Light.
Yep.
It's pretty good. Ryan, you got any? You drinking anything? You just got some water?
No, nothing alcoholic. Just some sour cherry G Fuel tonight.
All right,
he loves the G Fuel.
That's all right. It's all right. And Bob, I saw you had
margarita for dinner. So
you had it. Okay. Well, that margarita.
I just have the basic.
You got the Dew.
Basic Mountain Dew. I do have a Monster here too, but yeah,
not a lot of caffeine this late at night. Do you sleep?
Yeah, sometimes.
Which means no.
He
doesn't sleep very much. I can't do caffeine. I used to just be able to do it all day. Now I can do it till about 2. And then
I was really good on that, and then I've just been in this bad spiral back.
No, right on. You got to find your balance. About 4 weeks ago, I started intermittent fasting. And so it's kind of basically just skipping breakfast. It's pretty easy. 16 on or 16 off, 8 on. And you skip breakfast, eat lunch, eat dinner, 8 o'clock, start fasting again. And I didn't intend to, I've lost a little weight in the process, but I've slept better, which is like I haven't been sleeping at all over the last couple of years. And all of a sudden, the other night I went to bed at 9 and I slept till 6:30, and I was like, "What? Like, what is going on here?" So I can't tie the two together. I'm not ready to be like, "Oh yeah, if you're having trouble sleeping, try some intermittent fasting." But boy,
I think that's what's helped me. Bob always makes fun of me for my diet because he's just like, anytime we're around each other and I'm eating, he says I just eat junk food all the time, which isn't kind of true. But, I mean, I do have some Oreos and
yeah.
I think I've been on that intermittent fasting diet for years because I don't eat breakfast.
Yeah.
And I just thought I finally looked into what intermittent fasting was, and I was like, wait a second, I'm doing this, so that must be like what's keeping me at that level anyway.
Keeping you lean at least. Yeah. Well, and there's some cellular regeneration properties, kick in about hour 14, 15, somewhere in there where it starts recycling some of your cells and stuff. So so I think this is week 4. I started on a Friday, so I think I've finished 4 weeks tomorrow, and I've done 2 20-hour fasts, which I thought when I first started thinking about this, like, there is no way ever I'm going to make it to 20. And like, it's weird. You when you get past the psychological thing of lunch, and you're like, oh, what's the afternoon? Okay, I'll just wait till dinner. And you kind of plow through it. And all of a sudden, like the 20, I had to kind of remind myself, I was like, okay, it's over. I should probably eat something now. So
I end up like that on the weekend.
Yeah.
Weekend, my wife will be like, aren't you gonna eat? And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'll eat dinner.
Yeah.
There was a couple years ago, I was like looking at ways to lose weight, and I went down this YouTube rabbit hole of people who only drink water for like 30 days. That's all. They don't eat anything. They just drink water, and it was like crazy.
Yeah, no,
it was.
I don't know. I did Tuesday of this week. I had to make a trip to Lincoln to do. I was teaching at the university, and when I got out of class, I was at like hour 19 or I was close, and I'm like, I could probably just go till dinner. And I was thinking, I got an hour-long drive. What's that going to be like? Do I need to do something different? So I grabbed some chicken fingers just to get some protein in me from it. So the drive, I just didn't know yet. I probably could have made it. So
yeah, well, that's what, like, when I was watching those videos, that's what one of the guys said. He was like, after I got over that, like, I wasn't gonna eat, and it just like was out of my mind. He's like, I didn't even think about it.
You don't. It's bizarro world. Yeah, you think, when you're eating normal and your blood sugar drops, and you have that moment where you're like, I gotta eat. You push through that one time, and the body's like, oh, I'm not gonna get food. Okay, I'll go to the store. And so, you just got to kind of push or sleep through it. I mean, that's kind of one of the things, if you can plan it right, you're sleeping when that kind of happens, and you wake up and you're just like, the first weekend I did it, I just kept myself busy. I woke up, went out, and I went right to work. Like, I got up, made some coffee, because I drink black coffee during the morning. I'm not going to miss caffeine. I can skip food, but I am not missing caffeine, right? And so drinking coffee, and then I just went right to work in the yard. And next thing I knew, it was lunch, and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's 20 hours. That's not too bad. But the crazy thing is I just feel lighter. I've dropped 10 or 12 in the process, but I feel like even after I would eat and I would just feel full all the time, or I'd eat not needing to eat, and you just walk away like, oh, I shouldn't have eaten those Oreos. But so anyways, it's been a little bit of a journey. It's been a good one.
That wasn't a reaction to you. That was honest, like this sickness. Right. I'm just like, oh,
sorry, Mike. Sorry.
No,
okay. No. Guys, thanks for jumping in here. Appreciate it. And but beer is definitely, so because I'm drinking now, my fast can't start till 9:00 tonight. So I have to go till 1 tomorrow. Because it's a 16-hour, which isn't, again. So what I might just do, it's Friday, and I got a lot to do. So maybe I'll stack on a 20 tomorrow, knowing that works out perfectly if I just wait till dinner. Yep. So give it a shot. I wasn't going to miss the beer though. All right. let's do this thing, guys. I think I walked through the what we're gonna do. Let me get this started. Here we go. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 503, recorded on September 2nd, 2021. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios. And Mike, I'm watching the radar, and we've got some... I think we got some weather coming in tonight. Ryan, it's all north of you, right? But it's all the weather's going north of you. So
yeah, just north of us. It got pretty gray and dark for a while, and it sprinkled and rained for a little bit. But I looked at the radar and I was like, oh, it's gonna be hitting Jim and Mike. I'm sure.
Ryan is directly south of us down in Kansas, pretty much directly south. I think pretty close.
A little southwest.
Yeah, pretty close. But Mike, I'm checking the radar. We've had. We just had, seems like lately, just kind of storm after storm after storm. It's been good for the lawn, but it is late afternoon or late season storms. Bob, you moved out to last time we saw you back in December, you were in Pittsburgh still.
Yeah.
You moved out to California. I'm sure you hate it, right? Right?
It's horrible.
Just tell me you hate it.
It's, all this sunshine, as you can kind of see on my face going through the blinds here, it's just the worst. No storms, no snow.
Much difference. Okay, so I mean, you're in the tech world, you're reviewing tech full time, you do a lot of it from home, but have you noticed any difference just living in San Diego versus living in Pittsburgh? Did it make
as like tech?
Yeah, like the tech vibe or the...
Not so much. I mean, I'm a lot closer to a lot of the companies, so if they have some event, which obviously we're not doing those currently, but if they would have something or they wanted to show me something, like most of them are up in the LA area, like all their offices. So I could essentially drive 2 hours north and go see that product in person and do all that kind of stuff. But everything else is just kind of the same. You know what I mean? It's
just better weather. Just better weather. Yeah, just better weather. My son was at Pendleton. So Pendleton is between San Diego and LA. So we were out there a couple times. It's not the most fun drive, to be honest, to get on 5 and go north to LA. It's just always jammed up. And I'm sure traffic is as bad now as it was pre-COVID, right? Everybody's back on the road for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, the traffic here isn't horrible, but again, I'm not driving during like the rush hour time per se, and like the freeway. Yeah. So back home, I don't know, like we have like the interstate and things like that, but the freeway is like it's its own animal. It's completely different.
It really is.
Yeah, so it's just something different.
Motorcycles weaving in and out.
Yeah,
right?
and then like typically you'd have maybe 3 lanes, maybe 4. There's like 6 lanes wide, and you're like, what am I doing? And there's like 2 merging lanes too. So typically you'd have 1 merging lane, but there's 2 together, and like it's
Have you gone Forza yet and just go out there?
I've like missed turns, and I'm like, what? Like, because you're just so used to like being at home, where all the turns are. I have my GPS on 24/7. I'm just like trying to figure stuff out. So it's all difficult, but like I said,
you settle in. You got in there in the spring, and so you've been there about 6 months, right? So I'm sure you're getting it's beautiful down there. That's you made a good move to get down there. Ryan, Kansas never changes, right? It's just still flat. You can watch your dog run away for 2 weeks.
Pretty much. Yeah. Still going.
Oh, there he is. Okay, he's in Emporia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guys, Bob, Ryan, thanks for coming out and welcome. We've got some listener feedback, and Bob, it's going to tie right into you. So hang tight for a second here. I've been told you're the expert on this, but Brody sent me an email and he said, "Hey, I've been enjoying the show for the last few weeks. On the most recent episode 502 of Home Gadget Geeks, your guest talked about running a direct burial Cat 6 to an outbuilding like a barn. I think that was Schoonover and Mike. We went through the whole scenario of burying Cat 6 out to the shed, to the smoke shed.
Yeah.
And Kevin was like, I just buried 6 inches deep. And there was big controversy in the chat room about, is 6 inches enough? Do we need to go below the frost line? Some of those kinds of things, right? Bob, you'll never have to worry about a frost line again, by the way. But have to bury that. He says, I'd like to add that if someone does that, they should add a surge suppressor on both ends of the cable. There can be instances of static electricity differential between the two buildings that can lead to damage of the network equipment. Doesn't happen often, but it can. I was called into a customer location to work on their network to bring it up to speed. It was a mess. They had run copper to one of their outbuildings for about 10 years with no issues without a surge suppressor. But of course, then that's why he was there, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe just a good, as I'm thinking about, running lines between here and the shed, if I end up doing that. The deal is, I don't know if I want to run Wi-Fi, like a Wi-Fi extender out there. So I was kind of just thinking, well, if I'm going to run power out there, maybe I should just run some Cat 6 while I'm at it and drop it up in the shed. So Bob, this is where it comes to, I need your advice. He also says, on a side note, about the Sony a6100. So I've been talking about my daughter, who's in journalism, needs a camera. She's also going to be a YouTuber, influencer, that space. So we've been looking at both the Sony a6100 and the Canon M50, I think Mark II, right, is on that one. He says, Brody says, I have an A77 and love the camera. You can get an adapter from Sony that will let the mirrorless camera use the regular mirror camera base lenses. Sony calls them a mount. The old Multino, why can't I say that?
Canon Minolta.
Thank you, Minolta. I wanted to say something else. Lens would work as well. I use those lenses in the old film days. Just keep in mind that the old film lenses are full frame. I don't have to worry about that. And the newer ones are APS-C size. So getting the mirrorless with the adapter and getting the A-mount lenses means she can upgrade on it to a regular DSLR and already have the lenses down the road. Bob, I'm not too worried about lenses, just to be 100% honest. I'm kind of thinking about the camera body first. And as I look at the a6100 versus the Canon M50, this camera stabilization seems to be an issue between the two. And then how that viewfinder seems to be the other big issue. So if I put that in front of you, give me some advice on that.
So Sony just released a newer, is this mainly video or is it both?
Both. Yeah, she's going to do a lot of video, a lot of blogging.
I would say if she's more towards the video, Sony just released a new camera. It's their ZV-E10, which is based off the same camera, sort of almost the same camera that I have, which is surprisingly right here. This looks really big, but it's because I have a cage and I have this massive lens on it, but it's actually really small.
Oh, hold on. I'm going to go full screen, Bob. Hold that up to it's impressive. Hold that up to the camera there. So yeah, that looks good.
But this is just big because I have you can see the cage that goes around it. And
why the cage? What's the cage get for you?
So
gimbal?
This, it allows me to attach different things. I have an extra hot shoe up top here. On the bottom, I have a Arca Swiss mount, so I can just like snap it into stuff.
Got it.
And it protects it. So because this is all aluminum, so if I drop it, it's gonna protect it. Which is
so a cage. I've never heard of a cage before. So cage it's a good thing to get.
If your camera is like, so I take this on trips and I like climb waterfalls and I like throw this thing around. So I wanted something that would protect it.
Okay.
And that's why I had got it.
Okay.
But if you're just like using the camera in an office setting or a studio setting, you don't necessarily need the cage. But if you're attaching a bunch of stuff to it, it gives you a lot more options in that regard.
So give me the model number again of that Sony.
So the new Sony is the ZV-E10. It's mirrorless. It has interchangeable lenses, and it has a lot of the new Sony features. So the camera that I'm actually using right now is the ZV-1, which is the point and shoot version of this. And it has so it's tracking my eye right now. And Sony has, compared to Canon's gotten better, but I think Sony has the best autofocus you'll see out of any camera.
Does it have clean HDMI coming out? Can I use it as a webcam?
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing right now with this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So this has clean HDMI out. And Sony has the they have their app too, so you can actually connect the camera to your computer via USB and use it as a webcam that way as well.
And that's a big deal, right? Because like if she doesn't want to get a capture card and do all that, like being able to do it through USB is really big. I love the mirrorless.
$700. So that's about the price range of the other ones, right?
That's what I was actually surprised.
A great price for that.
Is that
camera.
just the body?
I was shocked it was that low.
Just the body.
It might just be the body, but
well,
I think
this one comes with for $798 on B&H. You can get a 50 millimeter, 16 to 50 millimeter,
and that's like a pancake lens. It's tiny.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the great thing. So, that's why I always say, like, just get the camera and then figure out the lenses later, because if you're not going to get into it, why buy a bunch of different lenses? But if she gets more into photography or she wants, like I have this big lens to get like a really shallow depth of field. You can kind of see it in this one, but not as much, where like your background's blurry and stuff. So you need like different lenses for that. But I think this new camera from Sony is really, really nice. And it does a lot of cool stuff. Like it shoots 4K. It does everything that you kind of want it to do.
That kind of fits the bill. And the issues were clean HDMI. So if she doesn't use it, I can turn it into a webcam. That was kind of the thought. Image stabilization seemed to be an issue. It was built into the Canon body, but not built into the Sony body. Is that right?
So there is some stabilization. For a lot of cameras, it doesn't make the biggest difference. You can fix a lot of it in post, but I would say Canon has better image stabilization for video. Sony's gotten better. This new camera has, this camera has it too. It's called I think it's called Active Steady Shot. It does a good job, but if you're like running with it, you're going to go up.
I don't think she's going to be running. Okay. Mike, you were shaking your head there for a second. What were you thinking?
No, I completely agree. I would go, if she's going creator YouTube video route, I think Sony's the way to go. Like, I don't think image stabilization is going to be a big thing. She's not running and gunning, right? She's not doing a lot of sports stuff at high shutter speeds where she's boom, 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 where that stabilization really comes into play. What I was actually going to mention too is, for her,
Mike is a little under the weather.
I'm recovering from.
You're fine, man. You're fine.
I would actually, to a company that good audio is going to be really important too. And I just ordered, and something I'm really excited about is Rode came out with their Rode Wireless Go 2s. And it's a nice little wireless receiver and then 2 wireless microphones essentially. And for $300, these things, you have them.
This is the first gen, but this is
okay.
We'll get you full screen. Okay.
I love these things. So I played with the first gen for a while, and I didn't own one though, and I'm like, man, I need these because for me, for YouTube, I'm kind of like that. I'm just getting back into it. I do videos every now and again, so I use my phone, right? Because it's a 4K camera. So I'm like, I use my iPhone 12 as my camera, but my audio, a lot of things I want to do are ham radio related, where I'm away from the camera. So this Rode, and what's great about the 2s is that they have digital out. So you can actually just plug in a USB-C to Lightning cable on the receiver to your iPhone. And you don't need the adapter for like the typical audio cable. It sends out digital out, and this receives from 2 different things too. So Jim, what I'm thinking for her is she's really into journalism, right? She's going to be interviewing people. And I think, hey, pin this on your shirt. I'm going to pin this one on my shirt. So you can plug in labs to these too. They're full on transmitters, right? You can just clip them on your shirt, clip one on one shirt, goes to one that's plugged into her phone or her nice new Sony camera, either of the 2. And man, she's got like crisp audio for an interview as a journalist.
That's the big thing too with the Sonys is like that Sony that I mentioned has the microphone port. So some cameras,
which is huge.
Don't have the mic in, but that ZV E10 will. So,
man, you know what, Bob, you just changed my whole world in 5 minutes. Like I was, I liked on the 6100. I liked that the viewfinder came up behind it on top. This Sony kind of comes out from the side.
Yeah,
right? The Canon
I actually like that. That's how my new one is. That's up here.
Side.
The screen's on the side. Yeah,
on the side. Yeah,
because when you put it up, you can have stuff like if you have a microphone up there, it's going to be in front of it, and there's
you're
other
right.
things.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
It does block the microphone up there.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Microphone or the receiver for like the Rode thing we just talked about, or a light. Because like I run even for my iPhone, this is the holder. It's got a cold shoe mount up top, and I'll usually put a microphone up here or something else. But think about this being a normal camera, right? You're always going to mount stuff in that hot shoe or cold shoe mount up above.
Mike, that's a good recommendation. That camera and those Rode. I made fun of those mics when they first came out because they're square, and I'm
they're
watching.
So ugly.
They are the ugliest things in the world.
Well, use a lav. You can get a cheap lav to plug into too.
Yeah.
Clip that on your belt, run the lav up, right?
Yeah. But I'm watching YouTubers using that, clipping it on all the time. You just see it, and you're like, now I've kind of
it's AirPods when they first came out, right? Everyone thought those were so ugly, and now
I'm not seeing it much anymore. Like I see through it now. It doesn't bother me as much as it did. But when that first came out, I thought that was the ugliest thing.
Well, the big benefit of those, the new version, the 2s, is that you get 2 transmitters that go to 1 receiver, right? And so for her doing interviews for journalism, the Rode, that was the biggest complaint about the ones, is I would need 2 receivers, and then I got a mess of cables. So this could just go, and if she's somewhere where she doesn't have her camera, but she has her phone, right? Plug them into the phone and do it that way. And they have recording on the device too. So even if she doesn't have her camera or phone, it's just built-in memory. So she says, "Here, you have one, I have one. We're in the field. I don't have any devices, but I at least want to get the audio done." And it records internally to the device, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason I had got these when they first came out, because Rode had an earlier wireless kit before these that was like really big and like clunky and actually more expensive than these two. I think it was like close to $450, and I was gonna buy it because I would run cables, and running like a long lav to your camera 25 feet away is like, that's what I used to do. And I got these, and this is what I've used for all of our YouTube videos for like the past. I mean, I got these right when they came out, so I don't know.
We did that cable the first time I went to CES with you, and that was a mess. Like, getting that thing untangled to to a suite, talking to people, and then rushing out to like get it tangled back up and wired back up. Yeah, the wireless is so nice to have.
That's why I've been doing it up till now. I have a Tascam DR40 digital recorder. I clip it to the back of my belt. I run a lav, and then I got to sync that up in post afterwards, which is like the biggest pain.
That's
now just having it all wireless. It's synced with the video. It's a huge time saver.
Yeah.
Well, all right. If
didn't even consider the Canon, man.
I do think
I like. We should give Ryan a chance to defend the Canon.
No. I think Sony's the right choice here.
Okay. I do think the M50 is a great camera, though. It is a really good camera. It's just, if she's more video focused, that's like when I had bought this A6300 when I bought this when it first came out. That's the big reason, because it was more focused towards video, and that's what I'm going to be doing most of my stuff on.
Right. Yeah, I went.
But go ahead, Ryan.
I was just gonna say I went the Canon route just because of the availability for you were talking about that lens adapter, and I think the emailer had said they could use those Minolta lenses. Well, I can use an adapter on this, and there's so many EF lenses from Canon out there from everybody else that's had DSLRs for years and years, and you can pick them up cheap on Facebook or Craigslist, right? So I can utilize those bigger lenses with the mirrorless camera on the M50. So that was
my first camera was a Canon T50 from like the mid 80s, and I love that camera. I mean, from a film camera standpoint, that thing took great pictures. And I had a big telephoto lens and just a regular stock lens with it. And I took it skiing everywhere. I did one time when I was skiing, I left it in a hotel room and it was gone. Like the lens the lens. I mean, almost as expensive as.
Why don't you just take the whole camera at that point? Like,
no, I left the.
You just left just the lens. I thought they unscrewed. Like, I just need this.
No, I didn't realize till we were on the bus, an hour and a half away. I was like, oh crap! I set that lens down somewhere and it was gone by that point. But so Ryan, I was kind of leaning towards the Canon for a while. Ed kind of talked me into the 6100. He has the A6100 from Sony.
Yep.
Kind of talked me into that for a couple reasons. But I love this recommendation because it's kind of the best. It's kind of the best out of Sony and a little bit of the features I was looking for in the Canon as well. I'm not a big lens guy, so I don't think that's going to matter. But that sounds like a good recommendation.
Yeah, they just released it, so it's brand new.
Is it going to be hard to find? Because it's new.
I think you could get it on B&H right now.
Yeah,
you can
B&H
get it on
is
Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look.
In
I'll put a
stock
couple.
at 16 to 50.
So Brody, thanks for sending in that email. You just cost me $800. Appreciate. No, just kidding. But Brody, thanks for sending that and appreciate that. If you want to send me an email, or if you still want to talk me into something or something else along this camera line, I've learned more about cameras in the last 3 weeks than I ever knew. And I'm not a camera guy, but you can send me an email, Jim@theaverageguy.tv.
So I have one more question on that real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Go
so
ahead.
Bob, on B&H for $100, so for $698 you can get the body only. $798 is where you get that 16 to 50 millimeter. So do you get just body and then order your own?
I would get that lens. So I had that lens on when I had bought mine, and then I eventually upgraded the lens. But that lens is great
for video.
Yeah, it's great for video. It's great. Okay. It's a great all around lens, and it's a smaller lens too. So it makes the camera incredibly small.
Does it give that good bokeh look for when you're doing videos? Like kind of like if we're all using those cameras, right? Can you get a good bokeh at this close?
You can get a decent one. This one I have is a 16, but you can see how big the lens is. But this is a 16. This is a 16 mil fixed lens, so it doesn't zoom at all.
Okay. So a good deal to spend the extra 100. Get the 60.
Yeah. 50. Yeah, I mean, you can spend on Sony lenses. I mean, like the top dog lens is like beyond like crazy professional, but like it's like $2,000. So,
okay. Because it started as a conversation for Sammy. Now I'm looking. So that was the reason for the question. Because I've been looking at these for a while, and now that I got
I think
on the line, I got to ask him a question. You know, I
think the ZV-10 is the perfect mix of like semi-professional features, but it's also sort of like the ZV-1 that I have. It's like dumbed down to like you can just turn it on and use it. You don't have to like learn the camera per se.
Right.
You know, and it gives you the ability to, in the future, if you want to get more into lenses and stuff, like you can research and you can get an interchangeable lens with it. You know, so I think it's the best of both worlds. I would actually get one, but I have this, and there's like no reason to get like a second camera that's essentially the same.
Got it.
You know, so
yeah. All right. Oh, I've got it. I've got it there at B&H. So thanks for.
Yeah. I was going to say too, is I always say this to people too, is if she can do it on her phone or whatever she's doing, if she's starting like YouTube, I would always say start on the phone, because again, this is like, you know, say like with the mics, it's going to be $1,000. Like that's $1,000 that like, if you just use it 3 times is a pretty big waste of money.
Yeah, no, it's good. Actually, I need to get her a new phone too in the process, because she has an iPhone 8. She is just beat.
You can't do it with an iPhone 8. That's for sure. That's not going to do it.
No, so I need to get her. So we're talking both. I do think, you know, it is kind of something I will probably use it as well. This is one of those kinds of like, I've been kind of thinking like, okay, I'm going to buy it for her to use, but if she doesn't, how do I repurpose it for me? You know, or can I just sell it? You know,
you can sell it to me. I'll be your buyer. If this doesn't go well,
Mike, maybe we could get a 2-for-1 deal in there. You know, figure out how to, or if we buy 2, maybe we get a discount.
Well, if she doesn't want it, I'll buy it from her.
Right, way to go. Well, I appreciate that, Brody. Thanks for sending that. If you want to make a comment on it, you can send me an email, Jim@theaverageguy.tv. I've been loving the conversation around this, and thanks for these emails that you guys have been sending in as well. Caught a little bit of your guys' show, of course, thinkcomputers.org, and caught a little bit of your show last night. You guys were talking about, and we ended our show last week with this idea, this chip shortage things that are going on. But Bob, Ryan, I want to get your view on it. Bob, you're doing a lot of reviews, or you're seeing a lot of this. I'll bring up the article that you have written about that. And you kind of come at it, what does this mean for schools? And we spent a bunch of time at the beginning of the pandemic thinking about, you know, this a year and a half ago, like, all right, where our schools are, you know, with technology. And we followed up in the fall with a bunch of folks in the school space saying, okay, where are we now? Well, we really haven't thought much about it, but answer this question for me. What does this shortage mean?
The biggest thing is that typically schools get new hardware every year. They don't keep hardware for a very long time. So when they're going to have to keep hardware for longer. and that's how their deal works. So they have a deal with Apple. We're like, okay, we're going to get new iPads every, but there's not enough to go around, really. That's just with everything. There's so much demand for chips, not even just in the tech, like what we talk about.
Trucks.
Cars is a big thing too, but it's just there's not enough to go around. And so if your listeners don't know, is there's fabs. Fabs are like the big factories basically that build these chips out, and there's only so many in the world. And just like any factory, I'm Apple, I'm Samsung, I say, hey, for this chip, like I need this, I have to order this many, and these orders are made years in advance. And already for 2021, 2022, the orders are already there, and the fab is essentially maxed out. Like they can't produce anymore. And to basically build more fabs, I mean, that's like a 3 to 5 year process. So we're kind of in that point where like Intel has said they'll be making new fabs, and I know TSMC has said they would too, or they're expanding their current operations, but that takes years. So we're kind of in this point where there's so much demand, but there's not enough supply. And you're kind of seeing that. I think cars is the big thing, but schools is a big thing as well. Just kids are going to be using older hardware.
Her second point was renewed means old, right? Of course not. And we're seeing, in this, you guys also, I think you guys talked about Windows 11 last night too.
Yeah.
In the context of, Microsoft is now dictating bigger or newer hardware, right? TPM2 and faster chips, right? And yet I've got, and you guys made fun of me the last time you were on. I've got old equipment that still works pretty well, like for what I'm using it for. And so, yeah, we have a chip shortage, but we also is some of the solution reuse or recycle or repurpose older equipment in the process?
I feel like
go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say, yeah, I feel I know your pain, Jim, because I've got like a Intel 4790K, that's in a system, and that when I bought it was like top of the line processor from Intel, and I know it's fully capable of running 10 and Windows 11, right? I have no doubt that it would run. It's in a system with an older SATA SSD and 16 gigs of RAM. That thing will run just fine on 11. And I think that's being good stewards of our technology and resources, right? Of this thing's not worthless, and it's plenty capable of doing most things for most people, right? Obviously, Bob and I are more into that enthusiast hardware level, so it may not run the latest games at the highest resolutions and frame rates, but don't hold us back in the just that home user or basic office PC, just because it's a self-implemented restriction is what it feels like. And it's only going to be made worse with this current chip shortage.
I also think it has a lot to do with security. Obviously the TPM restriction, but all of the issues that Intel had with all of those security exploits in their processors, they're kind of eliminating a lot of those older chips that had those issues. So you're going to have to get, that's kind of like, I would assume it's sort of like a deal with Microsoft. They're like, because it's customer service is an issue, and they don't want as many problems with this new operating system on older. And if you're a software developer, you can't make your software be great, 12, 15-year-old hardware back,
Yeah. Well, it's, I've got this Mac M1, which is, the newest thing I've had in a while, and it's great. Like I'm
kind of jealous. I've been looking at laptops.
Well, there's some new stuff coming out. You might want to hold right at this point. I mean, it sounds like the next gen is going to be pretty sweet, but which Mike, we'll have to have a conversation about. Do I trade the M1 in when the M2s come out, right? However that works. But then the next one down, Ryan, I've got a 4770 that, that is, it's 9 years old, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
Running it as basically today, I kind of run it as a storage server. I'm running some VMs on it. I kind of run some, if I need a basic Windows image for whatever, I can spin it up. I could spin anything up on that. I could make it a Plex server. I could run channels on it. I could run them all at the same time, actually, right?
Absolutely.
I built it out to 32 gig of RAM on it, so it's got plenty of space for all those kinds of things. And so you're like, it still works, but Microsoft won't let me run Windows 11 on it. But I think that's okay, I guess, is what I'm, in my world. I'm like, well, okay, I don't know if I need Windows 11 on that box that I've dedicated towards storage or Plex or some of those things.
And we've got till 2025 on, Windows 10. So that's still got a decent lifespan left on it. Maybe some of that old hardware will just die off on its own and got to get a new system anyways, right?
Well, so last time you guys were on, we were talking about NVMe, and you kind of gave me and maybe that was 2 times ago, but we kind of worked through, and I did it during that time. I hadn't realized how far NVMe had come along. And then recently, Ryan, I reached out to you and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about a new drive. Mm-hmm. What do you guys like? And you guys turned me on to the Sabrent. Am I pronouncing that right? Is it Sabrent or Sabrent? Sabrent?
Sabrent. I say Sabrent, but
Sabrent,
it could be
that's
Sabrent.
the PCI. But I bought the 1 terabyte. Here, let's get there we go. We'll do it on this side. So let me go full screen so folks can see. This is, you want to maybe come over to the video side on this one. But so this is the Rocket 3rd gen, not 4th. 4th's what's out there right now. M.2 2288. It's the terabyte. You guys have been tearing through, and I'll just show these. You guys have been, and Bob, I think, this is you. I think you've been looking at not only that one, but the Gamma and the Viper, and not that one yet. We'll talk about that here in a second. So you've been looking at a bunch of drives as well. By the way, so let me just finish the story. So 3rd gen put into a PCI 16 slot. That's PCI 3. I get great speeds out of it. It's kind of, it fits the board. If I did upgrade the chip, if I did upgrade the motherboard and moved it, I'm not going to quite get all the speed, but it doesn't seem like the speed difference between Gen 3 and Gen 4 is all that much more. It's not like going from a SSD drive to a M.2 NVMe from a speed perspective. It seems like you get 4 or 5 times more speed out of that change as opposed to maybe 1.5 to 2 times the speed difference between Gen 3 and 4. Bob, you've been looking at a lot of Gen 4 chips. These are all 2 terabytes. What do you think so far?
Yeah, I mean, so Gen 4 came out, I think, like 2 years ago, and we were limited to around 5,000 megabytes a second read and write. And like the drive you have is Gen 3, which maxes out about 3,500 megabytes a second read and write. And now I call this the 2nd gen of Gen 4. We're seeing around, 7,000 megabytes a second, 7,700 megabytes a second, depending on the
PCI,
drive.
On PCI 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
that right?
So it's incredibly fast. I mean, it's nice having a really, really fast drive like that, whether it's your OS drive, your game drive. It's just, if you're doing video, I video edit on NVMe's, and
I just made it a VM. Better. It's my VM drive. So I put the VMs on there, and yes.
Yeah.
It just I just use Hyper-V and put all the VM storage on that drive. And that's working really well for me for what I do.
Yeah. I mean, just the upgrade, even from a traditional SSD to an NVMe is excellent. Now, if you're going from a traditional hard drive to an NVMe, it's going to be like night and day.
Well, I think the SSD, so like a regular SATA SSD to this Gen 3 that I'm on, I think is like a 4-time lift, right? On the speeds. So that's pretty great. That and going from a spinner to an SSD was a gigantic lift. That might be a 3 or 4-time lift on that as well. So to be able to go up to that, Ryan, thanks for that. I mean, thanks for that recommendation. We kind of worked it back and forth. We talked about Gen 4. Ryan, you said to me, like, as soon as you buy that, you'll never buy a board that is going to support it, right? It's one of those things. You buy the Gen 4, you're never going to buy a board. You buy the Gen 3, you buy the Gen 4 board the next day, right? It always works out that way, right?
Yeah, it's always mismatched. It feels like, at least that's been my luck on purchases when I'm like, all right, I'll buy the Gen 4 and the next board I buy will support it, and then you don't or whatever, and you spent the extra. And I was curious if that had worked out for you, if you actually made the purchase, because I know we talked about it, and then I hadn't heard, and I was listening to the podcast and it sounded like you had bought it, and then I was worried. I was like, oh, I hope I like gave good recommendations. I said do your due diligence and check it out, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be a good combo for you. So I'm glad to hear it's worked out for you.
I was kind of saving it for this. I mentioned it last week a little bit, I think, in the post show, but I was kind of saving it to talk to you about. One of the drawbacks I didn't quite understand boot from PCI. And this board is a year too old for it. It came in the next board, and I could have probably downloaded BIOS mod maybe and made it work. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to mess with that. It's fine. So I wanted it. I was going to make it the boot, the boot drive. Just couldn't. The board doesn't support it. So I was like, well, okay. It's a 2012 board that's got a 2014 firmware update on it or version on it, but it was just a little too old. So I was okay. I was like, okay, I'll just use it as storage. So I've got a regular SSD in there that I think a 256 for Windows, which is fine. I'll only run Windows on that, and then I put this in a storage position to just kind of be the VM drive, and that works perfect. So Bob, thanks. And man, this was the most expensive part of it all. That was a whole $16.
Yeah, that's what's great about Sabrent. They kind of came on the scene probably like 3 or 4 years ago, and they not only on their drives but the accessories, everything's very affordable compared to a lot of other companies.
Yeah, this is just so for those follow along. This is the NVMe to PCIe and 16.8 4 card with a heatsink, and it's a great. Again, they're cheap, 13, 14, 15 bucks, and just pull it apart, and it's got some thermal tape in there, and you put it together. It's kind of fun, and it couldn't be easier. So it was Ryan, good recommendation. Bob, out of those drives you've been looking at, Ryan, turned me on to the Sabrent, but anything else you'd think about out of those drives to do?
I do like the Sabrent a lot. But I mean, all the drives are really, really good. A lot of them are all based off the same hardware. Unless you're like a Samsung makes their own controllers. They all use around the same controller. So a lot of these are using the new Phison E18 controller, and then they'll mess around with different type of memory chips. But the drives are essentially almost the same. And then the company like a Patriot or a Sabrent will do their own firmware, which they'll be able to optimize certain things if they work on their firmware. But they're all pretty much the same.
And you had this Gamma is a Mushkin, and I'd had an old Mushkin SSD back in the day, and so that's that. So is 2 terabytes the right place to be at this point? Or like when I was pricing them, it seemed like the 1 terabyte drives are kind of in the sweet spot for pricing.
Yeah, 1 terabyte is kind of the sweet spot now. 2 terabyte is a little bit more extreme. I think Sabrent offers up to 8 terabyte. They might have one model that's 16, but those are like, that's kind of the highest capacity you'll see, at least right now, in a single drive for NVMe drives. But you will see, this time next year, the 2 terabyte will be like the normal, right? But yeah, I would say 1 terabyte is kind of where it's at. That's kind of the sweet spot when it comes to pricing as well.
And all of this has me like drastically reconsidering. So my Unraid box is built on a bunch of old 4 and 2 terabyte drives, and I have like 24 terabytes of space in there. And I'm like, so when do I consolidate? Because I have this massive server chassis. When do I go down to like a NUC with a couple, like 2 NVMEs, both 10 terabytes each, 12 terabytes each, and be replacing an entire massive server, which the motherboard and CPU, by the way, are about 10 years old right now. I was like, man, the performance I am getting for the power I'm drawing and for the weight and size of this thing is absolutely crazy. with the price of all these NVMe's coming down. And even scratch that, go just regular SSD, and man, you could do a whole SSD server for on the cheap now.
Yeah.
All right, you guys got to school me for a second. So you got to help me out here. The Phil Show in the chat. He's over on Twitch, which I haven't really been watching, so I apologize. What's a dab?
Oh, you don't know what a dab is?
Ryan, you know this. Ryan, you know this. You got kids. You know what this is.
I do.
I'll dab. I'll take
Mike's
one.
got plenty of room around him. You won't be able to see.
Oh, it's that thing.
It's a dab.
I thought it was like
you got to kind of twirl your wrist when you go up. I think. I don't know. I'm old too, right? Like,
I mean, just like this perfectly. I think. I don't know.
I mean, I knew what that was. I thought it was like a technical thing on Twitch where like you got points or like, hey, help out my channel. All right, well. The Phil Show there.
Dr. Delectable's out on Twitch too. Actually, we got a lot of guys out on Twitch.
There we go. Well, thanks for joining us. I'm sorry. I was geeking out on hard drives and maybe not paying attention to what's going on over there in the chat. But thanks for joining us, and thanks for being out here. I did know. I thought it was something different. Okay, so if I'm in that space today, buying these, the best 1 terabyte drives are probably the way to go. And price wise, and then of course the adapters to make them work. Or I think most people, the boards are just coming to support them, right? In a lot of cases.
most new boards will support. So the latest Intel chipset, which is Z590, will support Gen 4. And then on the AMD side, X570, B550 will support Gen 4. And then if you go anything older than that, it'll be all Gen 3. But most high-end boards now will have at least 2 slots on the board. Some have 3, but it's few and far between. But yeah.
Well, it got me thinking. Like, is it time to upgrade try to on the Windows side? Is it time to upgrade and get a board chip? And then our processors are like our Intel and AMD processors running into the same. Are they having the same chip shortage problems, or is it only come on like components for the motherboards and such?
I think with these next launches, so Intel launch will eventually be coming up, I think probably in January, but I don't know, for the next gen. And then AMD will come around that same time. I think at that launch time, you will see some shortages. You also see what we've been hearing is there's going to be price increase. So all of the companies, all the fabs, they're increasing pricing, and they're saying at least 20% price increase, which makes, as Ryan did the math yesterday, makes what, a $500 chip, $600. Yep. Is that what it? Yeah, I don't do the math.
Hey, it's supply and demand, guys.
Yeah,
yeah, it really is.
We gotta be, we can't.
The thing is like, you think that like certain American companies are shady, like these tech companies, especially like memory companies. So we talked about like the people who make the NAND chips on the NVMe drives. They've been caught at least 3 or 4 times in the past 10 years colluding on price fixing, and they just like pay the fine and they continue to do it. So it's like all of these companies are shady.
Well,
it's happening all the way down into the ham radio. Like, it's affecting ham radio. So there's a Yaesu radio that I had in my car for a while. I bought it. It's like the top of the line Yaesu mobile car radio for $400. When I sold it, I actually made some money because the next year they were worth more. I'd only owned it for a year and I wanted to buy an HF rig. So I sold it for $420. Those are selling now for almost $600 brand new from all the main retailers. That was $400 2 years ago. $600 now. Yeah. Like when it's affecting ham radio, it's really
well, but guys, we're buying like all of a sudden everybody's buying everything.
Oh yeah.
You're like we can't expect. Everybody's like, oh, inflation, and you're
buying
like,
ham radios, Jim. Who's buying ham radios besides this nerd over here?
Well, apparently, a lot of people are.
Apparently, the demand is there, right?
Like all of a sudden, we have just become. I got to have the latest Xbox. I got to have the latest phone. I have to have the latest computer. I got to have the latest. I'm not saying review shows have driven this frenzy, but in some ways, the YouTube. Kind of this YouTube culture of review after review. I mean, Bob, when I went to look for camera reviews, oh my God,
I'll get stuck for days looking at if I like want a new camera, I'll be on there for days looking at stuff.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Tony says out in the YouTube chat. Sorry, Twitch. If you guys want to jump in, if you got questions in Twitch, just jump in and we'll get the questions in here. He says, I hope you don't need a new car. Yeah, I mean the truck situation, they're backed up. I mean, they're done. They just need chips.
Yep.
But that's what I love about it is like I pre-ordered the Lightning, and there is a new YouTube video every day I can watch, and no new information is released in like 3 months. Like every video is like the same thing, but I still watch it because I'm like, oh, maybe there will be something new, and it's like
it's just a frenzy. It's a feeding frenzy.
Helps that buyer's
Everybody's like, it's a little bit of just buy as much as you can. Buy it now. Hurry up, buy it, get it quick. Get it fast before it goes. Even in the cigar space, there's a little bit of like a new cigar comes out, it's gone. Why? So it's kind of crazy. Well, here's something we were talking about, reuse. And Bob, I'm not quite sure if this fits in, but I found this article interesting, talking a little bit about this deconstructed iPhone art review. And so is someone tell us about, is someone taking old equipment and breaking it down, making art out of it, or how is this
I'm
working?
not sure. So this company is called Grid Studio. You can't see it in my video, but it's like behind me on the wall. You won't be able to see it in the video. But they reached out and they said, we make these cool deconstructed tech items. Do you want to check one out? And I was like, yeah, like that'd be pretty awesome. If you scroll down a little bit, there's a keep on going. I think it's actually on the next, or no, right there. Like if you can click on that and make it bigger, the picture. But they do mostly phones, but they also have
3G. Oh yeah,
it's a 3GS.
Yeah. I love that was my first iPhone, was a 3GS.
Yeah. So basically what they do is, again, I don't know how they're sourcing these materials. I don't know if they're actually sourcing the phone and then taking it apart themselves, or they're actually sourcing each individual part. I don't know how they're doing it. But basically they take a tech item. This is an iPhone 3GS, and they take it all apart and they put it in this cool frame and they label all the different parts. And there's a little bit of info about the phone. And it's just a cool way to display tech. And Ryan and I were talking, it's like, I have, you have your old phones, or I have some old graphics cards that I kind of display in this room, but to actually have it like this completely deconstructed is such a cool way to show off old tech. It's like, it's something you don't typically see. And I think this company's doing a great job. They have pretty much every iPhone model. They have the Pixel 1. They have a Samsung phone. They have
like Game Boys and
Game
all
Boy,
sorts of
PSP,
cool stuff.
Nintendo DS. They have a bunch of different ones, but you can see all the different parts there and how they're all labeled, and everything's just like really cool in there. It's just a cool way. Like I said, I think it's a cool way to display tech. If you're like a tech, like there it is on my wall. If you're like a tech head like us, it's just something different and neat. And I think it was really cool.
You're a little nostalgic, kind of thinking about like, oh yeah, that was, and maybe even a little educational, as we think about students and what's, being able to see the components and the parts and what they do and how they're manufactured and how they're put together, that type of thing. As I look at this 3GS, it has actually less parts than I thought it would have in it. As you kind of look at it, you're like, you're kind of like, oh, it's really only just a board and a few other parts, right? An antenna.
Yeah. And I think you're missing the battery. Obviously, they're not going to, because you've got to worry about that lithium ion swelling with age. But, and that actually takes up quite a bit, I think, on the 3GS of that back panel. But it's pretty cool how much stuff's in there. And you see how big that motor is, like how much real estate they use up for the vibrate function. Is pretty crazy.
Yeah, so I thought it was really cool, and like I said, they make a bunch of different stuff from phones to portable game consoles. They also do like custom work as well. Somebody wanted all of the actual like all of the cameras that were in every iPhone from the first iPhone to the iPhone 10, and they made like a really cool frame for that and all different kinds of stuff. So
what's the retail on that, Bob?
So it all depends on what you get, really. So like the iPhone 3GS was $169. But we do have a promo code if any of your listeners are interested. It's just TC15. You get 15% off. If you want to check anything out. But like the original iPhone, I think is like $400 or something like that. And that's the thing is I wish they had a lot of older tech because I'm older.
Yeah.
Like I used to have like a Palm Trio 5600, which was the first like real smartphone that was like, it might have been the first Windows phone. I don't remember.
It had that little ball button thing, didn't it, that you could like roll up and down.
Yeah, or like the original like Blackberries and stuff like that, if they had, or like a Palm Pilot,
some old Nokias.
Yeah, like the brick Nokias they used to have. Like, again, I know sourcing the parts for those is a lot harder than like iPhones and stuff. So, but yeah, like I said, cool company, and I like it. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I think it's one of those. It's kind of one of those gadget items that fit into the demographic that listens to the show. Like, somebody would want to have that, deconstructed on their wall. It'd be kind of interesting too. Here I've got this is their website. Here, let me expand this out a little bit. So gridstudio.cc will get you there. This 3GS is $169 right now, and then I assume you get 15% off that as well if you use that.
I believe so.
TC15.
TC15.
Pretty cool on that. So, this would work. It would be kind of nice if they had or somebody made templates for that, and if you had the piece of equipment.
I think if you go on Etsy, people do sell those.
Oh, that's
like sell like the template that you can print out, or
really cool. Or even like, hey, I'll ship you my products. So you don't have to go out and find this ancient iPhone 1, right? Original iPhone.
That's what I was saying last night.
Yeah, like Game Boy Color. Like, because I want the Game Boy Color because like my parents were super strict. My first Game Boy, like all my friends had all the Game Boys before that. Like my first Game Boy was Game Boy Color. Like I would love to have that. Like my boys be like, oh my gosh, you played on that, and like have that be the background. That'd be super cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
The iPhone 3GS. I mean, that's the exact one I would need as my first iPhone. A lot of those, man, that'd be some really cool memories.
Yeah, and it's just cool. Like I said, and they're like, it's a 13-inch by 13-inch frame. So if you had a couple of them, you can kind of like, kind of organize them on your wall or whatever you wanted to do. So
my dad has this, and he's had it in his office, his work office, ever since. I mean, since I was a kid. But he has this old hard drive, and it's massive. It's like it looks like a 2 terabyte hard drive. And I think it was like a 13 megabyte hard drive, but I mean, it's got the plates on it, and he has it like displayed in his office. And every time I walk in, I'm like, that is a super cool piece.
Yeah.
They're like, because everyone asks like, oh, what's the size? And I should know. I think it's 12 megabytes or 13 megabytes.
Oh.
And he always says it, right? But he's like, oh yeah, it's this massive thing, and that's 12 megabytes. Can you imagine? Like 12 megabytes is nothing.
They're
now.
big.
It's such a conversation starter.
That's
They
crazy.
were massive.
I had a 10 meg for a while that it came out of an old.
Okay, so maybe it's a
IBM.
10 meg.
Probably 10.
Yeah, because it's that big, and he has it
10.
up on his.
Yeah,
because he
I
was,
wish I'd have kept
IT
it.
early on.
That was one of those dumb things that you're like, I got rid of my my Timex Sinclair 1000, which I bought in 84, I think, and I just wish I'd had it. I did somehow one day I was like, this is dumb. I'm never going to use this again, right? So, So I've started keeping everything. We've got our original Wii. That's all boxed up. I've got the original Xbox. That's all boxed up. None of the what's the white one that had the green ring of death?
The 360?
Yeah. No,
Xbox.
no 360. I don't think we had one that survived.
Skip that gen.
No 360. So we still got those hanging around. Bob, one last thing. You did a review, and I haven't said these 3 words in a long time. Creative Sound Blaster. Like, I didn't even think that was a thing, but that's a thing.
Yeah. So I mean, Creative, their consumer line is called Sound Blaster, and they have this really cool device which I have right here. It's super tiny, as you can see, and the biggest thing obviously the past year is you can see how small this thing is. It's just like basically looks like a little dongle, uses USB Type-C to connect to a laptop or even PC, and I think it works on other devices that take a Type-C, whatever the other devices are as well. But in any case, everybody's working from home. And the biggest thing with working from home is you're doing calls, you're doing what's it called? You're doing calls, you're doing video conferences,
Zoom.
You're having meetings, meetings, and all that kind of stuff.
Podcasts.
So yeah, I mean, just like what we're doing here, we all have nice microphones, but a lot of people don't, and they're stuck with the crap microphones that are on their system. And what's great about this is it has a little jack here for a microphone, or it's a multi-port, so it works with headphones and microphones. And basically what you can do is it's a little USB DAC, and they have some really cool software that allows you to basically make your voice sound great. There's audio samples in the review if you guys want to check it out, but I was like outside on my my balcony, and there were like cars going by, and you can like barely hear them. It takes out all the background noise. It does a really great job at it, but also it has a sound in. So if you connect like a headset to this, you can take out your, somebody who you're listening to, you can take out their background noise as well. So the meeting that you're in, you don't hear their kids in the background or whatever it may be. It's just a simple little device. It's going to make you sound better. It's going to make whoever you're talking to sound better. And it's super simple. Like, if you have a really nice headset, say like a headset that I have on or something like that, you have to take this whole big headset with you. With this, you can just throw this, it fits in your pocket, but you can throw it in a laptop bag, so that's the software. It allows you to do a bunch of different stuff, and it's just a simple device that just makes sense for people working from home, because not everybody's buying $100 microphones. Not everybody's.
They should though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They should.
They really should.
Yeah.
It makes huge difference.
Bob, you have a version that's got XLR. Is that right?
So that's that's just an audio interface.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So that's completely different. But so that smart comms kit, which is basically their work from home type thing, they're actually working that into a lot of their newer products that are going to be coming out. I have one that I can't tell you about, but they sent it to me. So, but they're working that in because it's great. It's just like we talk about NVIDIA broadcast and things like that, where it's software that's allowing you to have better audio quality for NVIDIA. It was for people who are streaming. But for a lot of people, it's people who are doing conferences and people who are, having meetings. And again, a lot of people were thrusted into this work from home, and they don't really have a dedicated office like we all do. It's the living room, it's the kitchen table sometimes, and you have kids running around. So just having something that's super simple that gives you better audio quality and allows people to hear you better is great. And I think this is like, I forget how much this is. I think it's like $25, right, Ryan?
Yeah, it's not terrible.
Yeah, it's super affordable.
And
that cutting out the background audio is so nice. However you're doing it, whether it's RTX Voice or NVIDIA Studio or the Sound Blaster audio solution is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I just had not heard. I remember back in the day, Sound Blaster was everything. There's PCI or ISA or PCI card, right? That you put in there, and it would do some great stuff for you. I don't think anybody made a second thought about audio until COVID, and then it was like, we better. We kind of,
and you see that now with a lot of these, because I've been looking at laptops. A lot of these new laptop models have a really good webcam and really good audio, really good microphones built in, because they know that's what people are using it for now. Whereas before, it was like maybe there's a small group, but it's not enough for us to like put an expensive mic or expensive camera into our product to make the price a little bit more.
I couldn't get people to turn their cameras on. I'd be like, before COVID, I'd be like, hey, could you turn your camera on? No. That was like, no. And it's like, really? Yeah, no, I'm not turning it on. And it's still, it's gotten a little bit better. I don't even ask anymore. If they want it off, they can leave it off. I don't really care. But I do. Early in the pandemic, huge difference between PC and Mac. Like, this is where somebody was coming in and I didn't see a microphone, and I was like, what are you on? They're like, on a Mac. And you're like, oh, that's why it sounds so good. Yeah. Right. And then you could always tell the PC, because it sounded like somebody, before they put the microphone in, they dropped it on the floor, stepped on it, dropped water on it, let the dog pee on it, then put it in the laptop, because it was so bad. Mike?
Well, I was going to say, and that's what I love about those Rode wireless Goes is that now with the version 2, it's a digital output. So you plug that receiver into your computer, it just shows up as a microphone. So plug your receiver and clip that thing on. Do you clip 2 on, right? Because especially if you're always doing Zoom, you're not in a conference room that has good audio setup, and you have presenters up front. You're trying to show them, but people on the Zoom can't hear them, right? Clip one to each. Plug this thing into the USB slot on your computer. Shows up as a microphone. Even during the podcast, Jim, actually next week, I kind of want to, in the pre-show, test out and really see, would this be usable even for a podcast, right? Sure. Clip it on, plug it to the computer. It's wireless, and just see how that would go. Good audio just makes such a difference, no matter how you do it.
All the difference in the world. It drives me nuts sometimes. Every once in a while, my mic will get switched over to the camera mic for something. And even when I'm recording something, and you guys would never let this get past. You'd be like, you're not on your mic. But the average person doesn't know,
Mm-hmm.
And I'll record this thing and I'll go back and listen to it. And I'm like, I was on my camera mic. Why didn't you tell me? Oh, I didn't know. I'm like, how can you not know? It sounded like crap. No, I couldn't hear it, And so that too is a thing. I think the average consumer, they don't know good sound, so to speak,
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My bad mic. This is technically supposed to be a bad mic. I'm on the mic that's on my headset now.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Actually doesn't sound bad.
It's
this
actually
is a brand new
microphone.
headset. Yeah. This headset just came out last week.
There's a little latency. There is some latency.
Yeah. So this is wireless. But I was trying to show the difference, so you could, if there is, I'll switch back. Hopefully I don't blow up my computer.
Yeah, you did all right the other week too. So
yeah. Let's go back to. All right. So do I sound better or worse? Or
it's just different.
It's just different.
That's bassier, right? Kind of if I compared this to a more roomy mic. The other one sounds more natural. Yeah. This one sounds more broadcaster, right?
You're on the
I had
2020. You're on the
but what's weird is I think people are starting to prefer the other sound. The more roomy, authentic sound compared to the broadcaster. They were doing some surveys. I was kind of looking through some reviews, and all these guys are saying, "Man, I have this fantastic mic, right? These high-old mics," and everyone's like, "Ooh, I prefer the more roomy, natural sound to the bassy." And that's what I said. I think for us broadcasters, for us guys who are used to good audio,
we're listening closer. We have earbuds in, or we've got cans on.
Is it that way, or
well,
maybe?
Yeah. Listen to a roomy sounding microphone with cans, and you just
but not roomy, but what he just used didn't sound roomy, but you know what I mean, more.
Yeah, his frequencies are higher, so on that microphone it's got a smaller diaphragm, so I think the frequencies are higher. It doesn't get any bass. Yeah, and you can listen to it, Bob. That headphone sounds fine. I mean, I wouldn't want you to do it on the podcast because
I wish I had a crappier one, because this is a really nice mic. I have crappier headsets.
That plugged in through the Sound Blaster, or no? You're just
no. This is just This is wireless going into USB. Yeah,
crappier, but a good example of a crappier mic that's actually decent.
It's very tolerable. Yeah,
is Plantronics. So this is the Plantronics 5200. This is what I use for work. So it's a wireless, one-ear headset, and this thing has a USB dongle. So it flips out. It's nothing special, but a regular Plantronics 5200 Voyager. What I love about this for work is that it comes with a USB dongle, number one, because Bluetooth on Teams and all of that stuff and through our Windows work laptops is terrible. I've tried AirPods, I've tried all the best, nothing works well Bluetooth. So this has its own USB dongle, but it also connects to 2 devices at once. So you can do Bluetooth to, let's say, your iPhone or your cell phone, or for me at work, I'm connected Bluetooth to my desk phone, and I'm connected USB to my computer, and you could answer no matter what. And this thing, I actually get people who say man, that sounds really good this is only $100 and some odd bucks. I think $130. And it does the job enough that it's better than onboard. And you can answer 2 devices at once, which is the biggest deal for me. So if my desk phone rings, answer that. Computer Teams rings, Zoom, whatever it is, use it. It's super low profile when it's on, so it's not like you're wearing big cans. I've been really impressed with this Plantronics. Now, I would never use this for podcasting. Does not sound that good. But for a Zoom call, for a Teams call, it's better than what everyone else is using. And just the fact that it's wireless, the battery lasts all day. I never have to charge it. But it's kind of cool. This case is actually a charging case. So you plug this into USB and you can stand it up during the day. So you just kind of plug it in there and it stands up and you can quickly pull it out, put it on. Or if you're packing it away, so I travel a lot. So I stood it up in there when I'm at my desk and it's plugged in charging all day. Or when I travel, I just throw it in the case. It's also charging in the case. And there you go. Throw it in your bag. You've got your travel mic or your travel headset and a desktop headset. Not bad for those of us who work in corporate America and kind of need those sort of headsets, right?
For the office.
If I was at home, when I'm at home, I'm using this, and work from home from COVID, everyone knew me as the guy with the microphone because like I use my podcasting setup. But when you're in the office, I would be made fun of quite a bit if I hauled this whole setup in with my Go XLR and the whole setup.
I jumped on a group call. It was a Omaha community call. And there's 30 or 40 people on it. And the small group that joined in the beginning, one of the guys goes, because he sees the mic and he goes, "Whoa, check 1 2 1 2." I was like, "It sounds good though." And then he's like, "Yeah, it does sound good." So
I was playing Call of Duty the other night with some friends, and the guy on the other team, because I use this as my setup when I'm playing Call of Duty, he's like, "Dude, wait." He's like, "Talk to me again. Just say something." I said, so he's like, "Dude, that's the crispiest mic I've ever heard on Call of Duty." He goes, "That sounds so good." And like every time, because in Call of Duty, like between matches, you can hear the other team. Between matches, like, "No, where's that good mic guy? Say something. Just say something. Just please, just say something." It was we had the hilarious banter back and forth because they're all used to the Xbox headsets that sound like garbage.
Yeah.
So it was pretty funny hearing him.
It's funny.
Well, guys, thanks for coming out. What's going on? So what do you have coming up, Bob? I'll ask you first. What do you got coming up over there at thinkcomputers.org?
A lot of busy,
on the podcast.
So our podcast is every Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We talk PC hardware mostly, so I'm not sure if you're. Yeah, a lot of stuff that we talked about tonight. And Ryan's the co-host there, so we're talking about just tech stuff. As far as what I have coming up, just I mean, for me, it's just a lot of normal stuff. We don't have a whole lot of launches coming till the end of the year, as far as like big CPU, GPU launch stuff. But we mainly do hard drives, as we talked about, but cases, graphics cards, motherboards, occasionally cooling, monitors, all that kind of stuff. So just check out the website, thinkcomputers.org. There's always stuff. We have daily tech news as well, a lot of stuff going on. So, and this is like the busy season. So when it comes to PC hardware, you see basically launches from like September all the way till right around maybe the end of November for holiday season. So all new laptops will come out. All that kind of stuff for holiday season will come out. So
Ryan, you want to add anything to that?
No, I'm gonna try and get like started back up on the reviews. I've taken a few months off and just slowed down. I reviewed a sit stand desk a couple weeks ago, right? So that was pretty awesome. That's my latest review there. I do a lot of the cooling reviews though, and some peripherals. So looking to ramp that back up. Work life in general, and the kids getting back to school and everything is just taking over. Mike, you know how that goes, with the kids. They take up so much of that time. So I had to step back a little bit, but I'm on the podcast every week and we'll get back in there and get some more stuff going.
He's got school pictures back though, and they're cute. So
nice.
They're at least cute, right? Those kids.
Yeah. They're cute, so you don't kill them.
Well, they have to be. It's exactly right.
You would murder them if they weren't. Yeah. You'd be like, you're out. Oh, well, guys, thanks for coming on. You've kind of become my go-to hardware guys now. If I'm gonna buy something, I'm like, all right, I better head over there and see what they're talking about, or just paying them what are they. And when I started talking about the camera thing, Ryan was like, "Oh, you got to talk to Bob about the camera." So that was a good.
I do. That's my expensive hobby.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, everybody's got to have one, right? And so it's it's super helpful. So if you haven't If you haven't visited the site yet, you'll want to get over there, thinkcomputers.org. Make sure you get download it on your or get subscribed to it as a podcast, or YouTube channel is great to watch as well. So you kind of want to make sure you're plugged in any way that you want, or join them live on Wednesday nights. For a while, they thought they could do it on Thursday nights. I don't know why they thought they
that
could.
was Ryan's idea. So.
Yeah. Oh wow, Ryan's idea too.
We crushed them, Mike, in this time slot. We just crushed them. So,
I signed up for our corporate challenge soccer team, and we had practices, and that just ended. So we're back to
no worries. Nice. You can come Thursday anytime you want. It's fine. It's not a big deal. But I know we had a few listeners who are like, oh, because they listen. They're both like this. We share a lot in common in a lot of things we do. It makes a lot of sense to have you guys on, and so appreciate that. Hey, in the post show, we'll spend a little time in the post show talking a little bit about Habitat, which we haven't talked about in a while. Mike's been kind of a shill for Home Assistant, and so we're gonna Habitat just announced they made a big announcement. We'll talk about it in the post show. You only get the post show if you come to the live show. We'd love to have you come out. A bunch of big thanks to Joe and Justin, Tony. Saw Ken out there a little bit earlier. Big Dog, like that Big Dog, and not to diss on the guys in Twitch. I didn't mean to do that. I just wasn't paying attention. Dab, whatever. And so we appreciate you guys coming out to be a part of that. And you can join us live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. Big thanks to Maple Grove Partners. Of course, you can get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust. You know that's Christian. And so if you need any hosting for any reason, a blog, whatever you want, he can basically do anything. Head out to maplegrovepartners.com. Plans start as little as $10 a month. He'll get you spun up and get you going. They're actually continuing to do upgrades on the Maple Grove infrastructure, and they've got all kinds of things. Mike, the thing I love about Maple Grove Partners, for me, it's easy. Like, no cPanel to log into. I don't have to worry about anything. I'm not trying to configure stuff.
My ham radio site is still hosted there, and my email, actually. So I utilize their email. So my ham radio email address that I get actually a lot of my email to flows through them.
Yeah. It's just it's easy. It's easy. So I
don't even know how much I pay them, but whatever I do, it's worth it.
I think it's probably 10 for the site and 5 for the email or something like that.
That's right. I think it's $15 a month. I think you're about right. $10 for the website, 5 for email.
Super cheap. If you want to leave us a voicemail, love to have your voicemail to read or to play on the show. Head over to homegadgetgeeks.com and you can leave a 30-second voicemail over there. If you want to send me an email like Brody did tonight, send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. Thanks for coming out tonight. We'll do a little bit of post show. If you're listening live, we'll be back next Thursday. I should probably let you know who's coming out next Thursday, just so you know. Our friend Ed Sullivan's coming out. We're doing I'm going to be in Boston 2 weeks from now. No show. Ed's coming out to do kind of a pre-Boston trip. Who knows? Ed Sullivan's here. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. So
get rowdy.
It's going to be a good time. Come and join us next Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody. Gents, do you guys, Bob, Ryan, have you ever looked at the Habitat? You have any idea? You know what we're talking about when we talk about the Habitat?
I only know it through you guys. I did spin up HA a long time ago, and then I'm just back to using Lady A and Google when it makes sense.
Yeah. So Bob, just so you're in the loop on this, so Home Assistant and Habitat are both Home Assistant. Mike, what would you explain? They're like, they put everything together in one
integrators.
Place. It's an integrator for all your home automation devices. So you can do Z-Wave and all the Lady. So it doesn't matter
what. Yeah, it doesn't matter what smart device you buy. These two can usually bring it all together into one. So
nice.
I don't care what brand I buy anymore because it doesn't have to integrate with Lady A. It doesn't have to integrate with Google. It doesn't have to integrate with Apple. Like, I can pull it all into Home Assistant. Or as we're going to talk about, Habitat.
Yeah, Home Assistant runs on
anything,
other hardware. So you can run on a Raspberry Pi. You can use it on Unraid. It's kind of, I think it's probably the Linux version that you can run on. Habitat has its own hardware. So they kind of went the hardware route. So they have think of that little Rode receiver that we were talking about on the show. It's that big. I mean, it's big enough to get a network port in it and to run a little Linux distribution that's a web kind of, that you can kind of web interface into, and then it integrates all these home devices. Well, Home Assistant's always been kind of ahead of the game. I think we had Habitat on the show 2 years ago now, maybe, I think, Mike, it was. And I wasn't as impressed when I saw Home Assistant. I wasn't as impressed with Habitat's kind of dashboard. The integrations were harder and they didn't have as much. But I got an email from them today saying they had 20 new integrations, including Ring, which is what they didn't have. Kind of that was the deal breaker for me with Ring cameras.
Yeah,
I needed integration in there. And so they have added a bunch of brand new, here, let me just show this really quick. So as we think about the additions to it, I think the ones that are black here are the new ones.
So I'm guessing in their hardware device, they have Zigbee and Z-Wave built in.
They do.
Okay.
I think they do.
That's nice
at this point. So you can kind of see, Bosch is in there, B-Sense is in there, Ecobee is in there. GE, I think, was supported.
And
before.
I think these guys, the problem I have is these guys are just going after different markets, right? Like Habitat is going after the, I don't have all my self-hosted stuff all set up, but I still have a tinkerer who wants to buy a system that can integrate, right? Like that's their target market. And really that's still a big market. So if you don't have a system or a Raspberry Pi, or for me, Unraid, well, and even for my Unraid, right, I had to hang this dangle USB stick off for Zigbee support, right? Like I have this, it's not decent, but still, like that's why Home Assistant makes sense for me. But Habitat does make sense for the person who doesn't like, hey, I don't have a server where I can spin up VMs. I don't have a bunch of Raspberry Pis lying around. I want the whole system, hardware. Zigbee Z-Wave built in is a huge thing, right? You're taking place of the Philips Hue hub. Not Philips Hue, sorry. Samsung Things. The Samsung Things hub.
Smart Things.
Thank you. Smart Things hub. And so I think these two are just kind of going after different markets, I would say. I don't think they're really competing when it comes to two, because I think if you have your own hardware, you're going Home Assistant. If you don't, Habitat's a great option.
Well, there's an offline option with Habitat too that I think, right? If you, Ryan, did you say this? You just kind of go with Lady A or the Google Assistant, right? That's kind of your hub, right? Is whatever smart device you have.
Yep. I've gone back and forth with thinking that I want to get all this integration and do these things, and then I just have gone back to simple.
You actually go to do it, and you're like, oh, screw this.
No, this is too much work. I don't need to be tech support at home too. So
yeah, and I don't know. I started with that, and then things came up like 2 weeks ago. I think I already talked about this on the show, but my kids. Our guest bathroom is the only place in the house with incandescent bulbs still in there, because they have those, those like totally see-through ones across the top of the mirror that cannot be LED replaced. That's what our guest room bathroom is, and that's what our boys use, my little kids, and they just leave the lights on all the time. And so I'm like, this is driving me nuts. So I put in a TP-Link smart switch, and I put in a Zigbee motion sensor, and just connected that all through Home Assistant, right? So it turns the light off after 5 minutes if no one's been in there, turns the light on when you walk into the bathroom, et cetera, et cetera. And those are the sort of things I'm like, okay, like the price for that was so cheap with the devices I was able to grab from AliExpress, a $3 motion sensor, right? A $15 switch for the smart switch. And then being able to integrate that all in on the back end was super nice, which I really liked. And I think, Jim, the only thing I struggle with is that Home Assistant has a huge offline community. So there's a lot of guys who run RVs who are constantly offline, who use Home Assistant as the back end. So they kind of compete in that space of, hey, if we're offline, what can be done what can be done locally? And that does depend on the devices you buy and the brand you buy into, right? Like, for example, Hue and TP-Link Casa and some of those may be local polling, meaning they can pull off the LAN. Some of them may need to pull from the cloud. So I think both of the systems compete there. It just depends on what ecosystems you buy into.
Bob, where do you land in home automation?
I use Lady A as well as pretty much everything.
Yeah.
I had been renting and I'm still renting, so it's not like I can change wiring or do any of that type of stuff. And obviously I'm not like, I don't have like a smart water regulator or any of that stuff I would do if I owned a home. But Lady A gets it done for me. And I mainly use TP-Link products ever since I reviewed some of their stuff. I was impressed. Price point's good, and it just works. Like no issues at all. Beyond lights, I really don't do that much smart stuff. I mean, the TV, it's a Samsung TV. I can turn that on with Lady A, but that is, just mostly lights.
I need to figure out if this then that. Sorry, I've only had one beer. I swear. Integrates. I'd love it if it integrated with my Subaru app, so that I could say at 8 p.m. if the doors aren't locked, lock them. Type deal. Yeah. I am notorious for coming in with a handful of stuff in my car, and I need to check it out. That's one of those.
You fired up Home Assistant though, didn't you? Do you have a Home Assistant instance?
I have a Home Assistant instance. Yeah,
I bet you could do that there.
I have both. I'll have to look. Yeah. I don't know if Subaru's integrated in yet with some of those.
For me, it was both. It was both hand, right? Like A-Lady is a lot of our automation. And for me, it's anything that I would want to interact with a voice. Yeah, right. That is A-Lady. And my wife would want to interact with a voice. Like at night, we say, "Good night, A-Lady." She turns off the lights. She arms the security system. She does all this stuff, right? Like that's a good automation for a voice assistant to do. On the other side, though, it was like all the motion sensors. And when we walk into our laundry room now, the lights just light up. And then as you walk out of the laundry room, the lights dim down. Like those sort of things with motion sensors and all that stuff that's not voice command, that's just automated. That is great for Home Assistant. So I do both. I mean, we are strong A-Lady users. We use A-Lady for a lot of our stuff. And then Home Assistant is like the back end. It's my garage door opener. So when I get close to the house, the garage door just opens. Like that's a Home Assistant thing, because those two systems don't talk in A-Lady. They don't talk in Google. So for me, that's done there. So I think it's a both and mentality, right? It's just having both, utilize what you need for both. And hey, if you can get a bunch of cheaper parts and do something that you're never going to do via voice, Home Assistant, Habitat, those are your ways to go.
Bob, Ryan, do you guys have any need for motion, like motion sensing? Because no, you just
So where I just moved, this is like all brand new construction. So the bathrooms have the motion. If you're not in the bathroom for like 5 minutes, the lights will turn off. But there's no smart aspect of that per se. Like I can't control that.
It's just the outlet or kind of a switch probably that does it.
Yeah. And then like my thermostat is a Honeywell smart thing. So I have the app on my phone, but nothing for motion like that.
Do you wish you had motion in any of the? Probably not an apartment.
I use voice. I'm so used to using voice for like the lights that are in this office, the lights that are in the living room, in the bedroom. Those are all smart lights, and I just use, like I said, Lady A for those. So motion's not a big deal. And I do have a garage here, but the light turns on when you open it. So it's
Ryan.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like our household, just in general, there's so many custom combinations of lights on, or did I actually want the light to come on when I walked in? And there's so many combinations that it's just easier to flip the switch on or off, or do whatever it is manually, as opposed to trying to come up with all of the possible combinations and then remember what I need to say to get that combo, or at this time of day, I need it to do this. And just, actually, yes, most of the time I want that, but today I didn't because I'm home with a headache and, whatever the case may be. It's like all of those things, I've just simplified it back down. I have a bunch of smart devices and I just end up using their apps, the MyQ garage door, the dots, and all the devices around, all the lighting in here I turn on with voice commands, but I just don't do the automation and automatic processes with them.
Well, that makes sense because when my in-laws come into town, I have to turn off all automation because they mess up all my system. Like, no. When you walk into the basement, we don't want the lights turned on, but when I walk into the basement, we want the lights turned on. And because this is where you sleep, I don't sleep down here. It's totally true. I have to disable almost all automation when some of the guests are in town.
That is the big drawback, right? Is guests.
Oh, it's huge.
You know.
Yeah.
The only place I really like motion in the house is in the garage, and so I have a low power light. I bought the Amazon Assistant, so I can use it in the garage. Plus, it has a plug-in motion sensor, and so when it senses motion, it turns on a low power light, really dim, it just to get me so I can at least see in the garage. But I don't like. I have a big bright, LED light in there. I don't want that on every time. It doesn't need to come on every time. It's oftentimes, so that's on the switch, and that's on a lighted switch. So that's I installed one of those manual, remember the switches you just turn on and off, and it's got a little light in it, and
the little orange light.
A little orange light on the end. You can kind of see it. It's totally old school, but it works. That works really well for me. So for the times I'm going out to the garage to put something away or whatever, the low power light is just fine. And then if I'm working in there, I'll go over to the switch and just turn the switch on. I tried automating that, but the wiring out there is a little jankety. So I was like, I can just flip it on and off. So that's about the only place we use a lot of the timing automation for, like, there's a light over the litter box, and Sarah wants that light on at night and off during the day. So that, that comes on when things get dark for the cat. And then of course, during the day, we don't need to have it on. So it shuts it off. She also likes a front door. We have a light in our doorway, in our front doorway. We have a big glass panel or big stained glass panel. She likes a light shining through that in that doorway to be lit all the time, but it doesn't need to be lit full blast. So at dusk, it comes on 25%, stays on unless we brighten it for whatever reason. And then at dawn, it goes back off. And so those timing features have been really good. Here's the drawback. Because I use Habitat Home A Lady and Home Assistant, when that thing stops working, I have to go, okay.
What system stopped working?
Did I program this in the app? Is it on Home Assistant? Do I have it through Amazon? And then, oh my God, don't change your Wi-Fi. Because don't change the SSID on your Wi-Fi. Breaks. Everything breaks. And today it takes me a whole Saturday to reset, to figure out, like, okay, this light's on that and this is there, and discover. And then
I've literally created a separate SSID, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, that one can stay my what do they call it? IoT devices.
You're on a VLAN. You're making the VLAN.
Yeah. That's my new IoT wireless SSID. Now I'm going to create a new one. That's my new secure, and I've gone from like my name with an S on the end for secure. Okay, now that's my IoT. Now it's SS. This is really secure.
Super
secure network, because now I didn't want to change all the other Wi-Fi passwords. And
that's funny.
Yeah. Well, guys, if you're listening live, thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate that. I'm going to let these guys go, but we appreciate you guys coming out. We'll be back next Thursday at Sullivan. It's going to be fun with Ed. So make sure you guys join us at 8 next Thursday. We'll see you guys. Take care, everybody.